Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. They just announced a bunch more versions of Spider-Man that are going to be in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and there are some big ones. There's at least 6 new major ones, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. It has been a minute since I've done a Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse video, but the movie's coming out June 2023, so once we start getting more footage and previews, I will do more videos for the movie. But probably the first biggest new version is Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man from the 616 universe. There's been so much talk about him being in a version of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. There was actually a deleted scene where he was supposed to be in that first movie.
At one point I was supposed to be in it. Yeah, there was going to be another Peter Parker,
really?
like, there was like a scene in a train
like
station or
another
something,
dimension.
and like, it was going to be like an Easter egg. I was going to walk through the background and say like, hey kid, or something, and never happened. I'm heartbroken. But I'm just excited for us to introduce Miles into our own universe one day. I think that's going to be really cool.
Should be wild.
Yeah.
As far as I know, his cameo in the sequel is supposed to be an animated cameo because the whole deal in the sequel is that Miles Morales is traveling across the Spider-Verse, like he's traveling across different universes instead of everybody coming to his universe. I guess it is possible that it could be a live-action cameo because they did talk about doing live-action cameos in the first movie, but they thought it was just like a little too meta. There was a little bit of live-action with the popsicle, but like that was about it. Because this is taking place after the events of Spider-Man No Way Home, I assume he's going to be wearing his brand new Spider-Man suit that he got at the end of that movie, though. If you remember the very early trailers from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse a couple years ago, you may have spotted his cameo scene. So he's in the early trailers, or at least his scene was in the early trailers, but I think they wound up deleting his scene because of scheduling problems, because when they were working on that movie, when they would have been working on his cameo scene, he was still busy working on Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and Spider-Man Far From Home. So I think it was mostly a timing issue at the time, and they just had trouble working out a deal for him because it's still Sony making the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movies, so they have much more say in what Tom Holland does, but they still have to work out a special deal for him to do that stuff. When I said it's in those original trailers, this is the scene that he's talking about, where they talk about the other versions of Spider-Man. It's really quick, blink and you'll miss it, but if you remember, it was in those original teaser trailers.
Wait, so how many of us are there?
The next 2 biggest ones are both Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man versions. There's been talk about bringing them back for a long time. Phil Lord, Chris Miller, the producers of all the Spider-Verse movies, said that they talked to the Sony executives about doing cameo scenes with them when they were pitching the very first film many years ago. But because we're talking about like 2015, 2016, 2017, the Sony executives at the time said that it was too soon. So just everybody laugh about that, too soon. We literally just got done watching Spider-Man No Way Home, where all the live-action versions cameoed together, like they did a live-action Spider-Verse on a low level.
You like make your own web fluid in your body.
I'd rather not talk about
You never
this.
had a web block? Because I run out of webs all the time. I have to make my own in a
Right.
lab.
But I did, actually. You said that. I was like, oh, I had a web block.
Whoa, why?
Existential crisis stuff.
So cool, man. Like, I want to see the holes. Hey.
Unbelievable. What was Sony thinking? Too soon to do a cameo scene back in 2018. You also have to remember that at that time when they were pitching the movie, this was like 2016, 2017, that they didn't know that Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire would be coming back for Spider-Man No Way Home for the 3rd Spider-Man live-action movie. That didn't really become a thing until right before they actually started making the film. Like, what if we actually got them to come back and then it turned into a big deal and happened pretty quickly? But that wasn't until like 2019 when they started working on that. My assumption is that the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield cameo scenes would be separate scenes, and just like the Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man scene, it would be Miles traveling across everyone's universes, and that's how they'd cameo them. Since I posted my last trailer, they also confirmed that Spider-Punk is going to be another big character. They've also said that Yuri Lowenthal is supposed to have a cameo scene as a version of Spider-Man PS4 from the video game. Like, literally the PlayStation game version of Spider-Man will have a cameo. Like I said, I'm assuming Miles traveling through the universe of the game. That totally feels like something in the tone of the Spider-Verse movies, like them just doing really meta stuff. Like, yeah, we're gonna have some live-action cameo scenes, but they'll be animated, probably, and we'll have some video game cameo scenes. Like, all kinds of universes, everything is connected through the Spider-Verse. Talking about some more nostalgic deep cuts too, older versions of Spider-Man, there's been more talk of them doing a version from Spider-Man the animated series in the 90s. His voice actor was Christopher Daniel Barnes, who himself talked about being in the sequels back when the first movie came out. It's still one of the best animated series that Marvel has ever done, and my favorite animated Spider-Man series. If you want early teasers for Madam Web or Secret Wars, they did both on that series. The version of Secret Wars that they did, though, was the 1980s version with the Beyonder, not the more recent version, which I think is going to inspire more of the plot during Avengers 6, like the more modern version of Secret Wars. But we talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse getting super meta with all these different Easter eggs. They just had that big scene on She-Hulk where she had a cameo scene with a real-life version of Kevin Feige played by a robot.
And when are we getting the X-Men?
I cannot tell you that.
Spider-Man the Animated Series did something like this almost 30 years ago. So you could say that She-Hulk is kind of ripping off Spider-Man the Animated Series. If you didn't watch that series, at the end, Spider-Man travels to the Marvel Comics offices in a universe and has a meeting with a real-life version of Stan Lee, who did the cameo himself, like it was a great Stan Lee cameo scene. And Spider-Man learns that he's a fictional character that Stan Lee created to sell comics, and they legit just have a heart-to-heart with each other. The even more meta thing is that in this scene, Madam Web makes the multiverse cameo possible, like takes him into this universe to meet Stan Lee, and she was actually voiced on the series by Stan Lee's wife in real life named Joan. He even literally makes a reference to that during the actual cameo scene, like, you sound very familiar.
I'm looking for some guy named Stan Lee.
What? Spider-Man?
Spider-Man. It's time to go.
Who is that exotic lady? Wow, I wonder how I'm supposed to get down from here. I suppose I could wait for the Fantastic Four to drop by and give me a lift.
Personally, I think that meta cameo scene is a little bit better than the She-Hulk Kevin Feige cameo scene, but that's just my personal opinion. There's also talk of them doing a cameo scene with Josh Keaton's Spectacular Spider-Man. Even though that series isn't quite as precious to me, a lot of younger adults now watched it as little kids and still think of it as their favorite animated Spider-Man series. Probably one of the biggest things that's also happened since we started getting Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse trailers is that Haley Steinfeld, who plays Spider-Gwen during these movies, has also started playing the live-action version of Kate Bishop Hawkeye inside the MCU. So talk about meta crossover. I'm sure at some point there'll be some jokes about that, especially when they start doing the press tour for the movie.
No. Come on, that is so annoying.
There was talk about her potentially playing a live-action version of Spider-Gwen at one point. I don't know if that's going to happen now, just because she is playing Kate Bishop, so it becomes a little bit crazier. But if we're talking about multiverse heading to Secret Wars, I suppose there's room for literally anything, like nothing should be off the table, technically. And quick reminder, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a two-part movie. That's right, they're doing the Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame thing where they split the movie into two different parts. We're getting part 1 next year and part 2 the year after that, so there won't be a giant wait for part 2 of the movie. One of the key differences between this movie and the first Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie is the first movie was all about other characters coming to Miles Morales' universe, the Ultimate Spider-Man universe. The sequels is going to be the opposite. It'll be him going to other universes inside the Spider-Verse. But if it wasn't clear from that, when they travel to other universes, they use different animation styles for each different version of Spider-Man's universe. So for example, in the trailer, there's a lot of footage of Miles Morales traveling to this alternate universe of Spider-Man India's universe. He's a Hindu Spider-Man, so everything's drawn in an Indian-themed animation style for that country. The same is true when he goes to Spider-Man 2099's universe in Nueva York in the future. I'll also explain that too, like how can he travel in time when he's traveling between universes? If you spotted any other new ones that I didn't mention in the video that you've heard them tease or talk about, just write them below in the comments. My Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie review will post on Tuesday after they let us, and my full post-credit scene video, breakdown Easter eggs for the entire movie, will post later in the week after it actually comes out, so be sure to go see the movie as soon as possible this week. Everyone click here for my Ant-Man 3 Quantumania trailer with a whole bunch of Easter eggs, a whole bunch of Kang the Conqueror, and click here for my full Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse trailer from a little while ago and the many, many versions that they already announced. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.